With the calendar turning over to August, some leagues are still getting ready to start up their rookie drafts. If you're a contending team, like the team we're going to be auditing today, should you be using your rookie picks to get yourself some depth from the rookies, or should you be looking to move those picks to get yourself some veterans to compete this year? Find out now on the Dynasty Team Audit.
What's up, Nerd Herd? Dan and Tim back again. Another feature episode in our Dynasty Team Audit Series. This week we got sleeper user LambRoast with a 14-team LambRoast. Makes me hungry. Food references again.
Euros.
14-team Dynasty League, one quarterback. The interesting thing this week is we have a rookie draft that hasn't started yet. That's right. Their rookie draft is starting this Saturday, right in the middle of training camp, right in the middle of tweet hype season. How is that going to affect our take on a rookie draft, and how is that going to affect what players we might want to trade for? So before we dive into that, let's go over all the team settings. Like I said, it is a 14-team league, one quarterback, standard, no PPR. That's very important to note because not a lot of people play that way anymore, but it does add a couple of wrinkles into our evaluation of rookie picks. 6-point passing touchdowns for quarterbacks. Starting lineup requirements, it's one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, one tight end, and two flex. This is what I would call kind of like an old school league, pretty standard set of rules, keep it simple type of thing. So let's look at the roster we have. We have the Boonerang Devils here. They are our top-ranked team according to the Dynasty GM 2.0 Power Rankings. Interesting thing to say is this team actually finished second to last year. So you might be saying to yourself, how is this team ranked at the top for Power Rankings despite finishing second to last? Well, let's take a look and we could easily figure out why. Starting with quarterbacks, we had Trevor Lawrence and Russell Wilson. As Tim and I were talking about before we started recording, Trevor was really a back half of the season type of fantasy quarterback. And then, honestly, his best game of the year was the playoff win over the Chargers during Wild Card Weekend. So He wasn't getting a lot of production out of Trevor the first half of the year, and he wasn't getting a lot of production out of Russell Wilson at any point last year, if we have to be honest. Not a lot of cooking in Denver, as we like to say. Speaking of Denver, he was also missing his running back all season because he did not have Javonte Williams. He was relying on Ezekiel Elliott and then Boston Scott during games against the Giants. That's when he got points out of his running back 2 spot.
Right.
Then we go down to the wide receiver room, and this is where we start seeing the strength of why this team is ranked number 1 in our power rankings. We have Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and Brandon Ayuk slated as our starters.
Right.
And now Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, they were rookies last year. Rookies come on a little bit later in the season. We also know that Garrett Wilson was dealing with Mike White, Zach Wilson, and myself out there at quarterback at certain points. He was missing Rashad Bateman due to an injury. John Mechie, God bless him, was overcoming his cancer thing last year and should be back. Yeah, should be back this year. And then Michael Gallup, he was injured, I believe, during preseason last year, right, Tim? Sometime around this. So his wide receiver core was also decimated by injuries. And then finally he had Dallas Goedert at tight end, which Tim pointed out before we started recording, missed 5 games himself last year.
Right.
So we can easily now see why this team finished in 13th place.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, Tim, you take a look at this roster. What are some initial takeaways for how we should be entering this rookie draft that is starting quite soon?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in a 1 QB league like this, Trevor Lawrence is a really solid quarterback to have. You're in good shape there, and Russell Wilson's a fine backup. I mean, you could be in much worse shape if something was to happen to Lawrence. Having a backup like Russ, he's a veteran. You're hoping Sean Payton can do some magic there and get him back on track. You're not even looking for him to be, top 10 quarterback anymore, just a guy that can cover your points if Lawrence is on bye or happens to get injured. And then the receiver room looks really, really great. I mean, it's young, which is, I think, a big portion of this. So it's not only just talented, it's young. It's not like something that you need to be looking, a year or two from now. You're going to need to have some replacements in there. you have 4 guys that are all, 25 or under, and that's going to really help you out here. And beyond that, even Bateman and Mechie on the bench, that you have plenty of depth there at wide receiver, and you're looking really good at the top, especially Wilson and Olave, who I think are probably the top 2 receivers coming out of that class from a year ago going into this season. Drake London, being close with them. You're in really, really good shape with the wide receivers. And Goddard and even Freiermuth behind Goddard, I mean, they're going to produce the points. They're not top 2, top 3 tight end guys, but they're going to produce the points when they're on the field to make sure that you're covered. The biggest thing here, the one glaring issue, is going to be the running back room. Javonte Williams, it sounds like he's going to be ready to start the season. He's already been cleared for contact in camp, but I know that it takes some time for guys with ACL injuries to get back to full strength and, full explosiveness. And so he may be playing to start the year, but he might be on, a rotation backfield where he's only getting so many carries per game, and they're going to kind of ease him back into it. It could be great for the latter half of the year, but to start the year, I think we want something to be a little more secure than Javonte, who, probably is going to be on a count for snaps, and Ezekiel Elliott, who currently doesn't have a team. So you need to start 2 running backs on this team, and right now you only have 3 running backs actually rostered places. So there's definite needs here at running back, and like we were talking about him finishing 13th. I mean, when we look at the chart kind of above here, there aren't a lot of teams that are really low in this league. It's a pretty even league. It's very well balanced. There's not a lot of teams that are just way down in the pits. So it's not going to take a lot to lose a game here and there. So he is going to need to fill that running back room.
Yeah. And now, so with it being before rookie draft, we do have to take into account our 2023 rookie picks because we still have them assigned. So I'm actually going to go over to one of the best parts about the Dynasty GM 2.0 app is you can see your draft boards directly from the app without having to open MFL or Sleeper or whatever your hosting platform is. So as we can see highlighted here, we have Port Phillip Princess with the number 1 pick, which you have to imagine is going to be Bijan Robinson, of course. Mm-hmm. We're sitting here. We have the 2nd pick in the 1st round. We have the 9th pick in the 1st round. And we have the 12th pick in the 1st round. After that, it gets a little wonky because my mind, I'm sure you're the same way, Tim, always goes off of 12-team formats. Yeah. So a 14-team league, my mind has to readjust. So we're just going to talk about the overall picks. So our 2nd rounder here, 207, is the 21st overall rookie pick. Mm-hmm. And then we have our 3rd rounder, 302, is the 30th overall rookie pick. So we have 5 picks in total. And the nice thing is we have some premium draft capital to work with. This 102 we earned, quote unquote, through injuries last year. Mm-hmm. And then we have 109 and 112, which we acquired via trade. We didn't go into looking at how those trades occurred or anything because we just want to focus on this upcoming rookie draft and how to take a team that's at the top of the Dynasty GM Dynasty Power Rankings. And we want to ensure that that team is going to win a championship because as we can see, we can change the app from Dynasty mode to contender mode. And we are not the top of that contender rankings. Right. We have this team right here.
Who has
Lamar
much
Jackson,
better running backs.
Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, James Conner. Wide receivers are a little weaker. So I feel like if we improve our running back room, we have a real chance to take down Gambino's team, who is his number 1 ranked according to our contender mode power rankings. So, all right, so Tim, so this rookie draft starting on Saturday.
Yep.
What is our game plan going into it?
I mean, outside of a miracle happening and being able to move up from 102 to 101, I think you have to look at this a couple different ways. I think 102 is still a really good pick in this draft, being that Jahmyr Gibbs is available as a rookie as well and was highly drafted in the NFL draft by the Detroit Lions. All the talk out of camp is that they love his intelligence, they love how quickly he's picking everything up, and that he's going to be involved not only running the ball but also in the passing game. They might try to put him out in the slot and have him running routes during the game. So it is a really exciting back and a young back that you can hopefully build on. So 102 I'm not taking lightly to move, but I think any of these picks, 102, 109, and 112, should be put out there as available to teams in your league to try to improve at running back. 102, you're probably holding on a lot tighter, obviously being the best pick. But if somebody came along with an offer that's going to be a running back that's, a top 10 kind of guy, maybe has 2 or 3 years left, then that's something you have to consider. But right off the top, I'm probably thinking 102 is probably that you want to make a move to grab Jahmyr Gibbs. And then 109 and 112, I think you, in the position that you're in here, probably want to look at shopping those picks, because 109 and 112 in a one quarterback league starts to get kind of in that shakier zone. There's still really good players that are available there, but how much they're going to be able to contribute to a contending team their first year, their rookie year, is very questionable. So when I'm a team that is, ranked near the top of my league, in our rankings, the number 1 dynasty team, the number 2 contender, I want to go win. Banners fly forever, and I want the championship. So moving 109 or 112 for a veteran back, I think, is something that I would highly, highly consider on here.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing I do want to mention is Gibbs has been touted for his pass catching prowess, and obviously with it being a standard league, that receiving aspect takes a bit of a dip. So in full PPR, there's a gap between Bijan and Gibbs, and I'm not saying that Gibbs is close to the talent level that Bijan is, but I'm saying it's small in PPR. But once you switch over to a standard league with no points per reception, that gap becomes, that much bigger, and you get less of a starting asset out of Jahmyr Gibbs, where in a full PPR league, he might finish as a top 14 option this year off of 60, 65, 70 catches.
Sure.
When you go to a standard league, that's 70 less fantasy points that he's scoring, which he now has to make up with 70 receiving yards or rushing. He has to make it up with 70 yards, which is potentially 2 or 3 games worth of production for him, depending on how his breakdown works out with David Montgomery.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good point. I think the main thing is just knowing that Gibbs is going to be involved and getting you points is probably the key here. But yes, exactly like you're saying. If you're not gaining those PPR values out of him, that was kind of the talk for forever, right? Was, DeAndre Swift, who was playing in Detroit the last few years, was, but he's going to get all these catches. But that's not going to matter in a standard league like this. And if we look at our standard versus half point, even just half point PPR last year, Austin Eckler was the number 1 back, with 319 he was getting 18.8 fantasy points a game in half point PPR, but he was the running back 4 if you're taking away the pass catching. He's only at 15.6 points per game, when PPR is removed from it. And Jacobs, McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry all finished ahead of him as soon as you take out just the half point per reception. So it does dip down the total value.
Yeah. So, but I'm still on board. I think we take Jahmyr Gibbs at 2 because that adds not only a startable asset this year, but also an asset we will be able to rely on for the next potentially 5 seasons. So it's both a win now move and it is a win for the next 5 years type of move. So I think that one is a no-brainer. Yeah. The next question is, what do we do with these later first-round picks, 109 and 112?
Right.
Like Tim mentioned earlier, I think the best move is to trade these picks, because when you get to 109, you're past, obviously, Bijan and Gibbs. Mm-hmm. You're going to miss out on what I would consider all the Tier 1 wide receivers. JSN, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers. Right. They're gone. You're probably going to miss out on Dalton Kincaid, the tight end 1 in this class. And now you're honestly sitting there debating yourself, like, do I take the upside of Anthony Richardson?
Yeah.
Or do I take one of these Tier 2 type of players? Right. And Anthony Richardson is my quarterback 1 in 1 quarterback formats because of the ceiling.
Sure.
But like you said, we already have Trevor Lawrence, who is our young elite quarterback. We have Russell Wilson, who will hopefully regain something this year and be a nice bye week option.
Right.
So Anthony Richardson doesn't really put us over the top for this year. So I think trading 109 and 112 is the move that makes the most sense. But I will say this, like, read the room with your league.
Yeah.
You know, we are not in these leagues. We don't know what trade talks are like. We don't know how active these leagues are. So this advice is, you know, dependent on how your league is. So, you know, you feel the room, read your league mates, but I would, and Tim would just suggest trading 109, trading 112. But let's talk about some targets that we can, you know, pinpoint with these picks to, you know, add a running back that will take us to a title this year. Tim, why don't you give us one name that you would target with one of these two picks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the first one, whenever I'm starting to try to target guys in a league, I'll go through the Dynasty GM and I'll start looking at, you know, some of the guys that are near the bottom of the Dynasty rankings, because those are typically the guys that, you know, if they're realists, they're going, okay, might not be my year, might want to sell off some pieces and try to build myself back up. So when I'm looking at this league in particular, the bottom team by our dynasty rankings, the Iraqi Screaming Eagles, I go there, and in the running back room is Derrick Henry, who I just mentioned was running back 3 in standard scoring last year. So the third running back overall. Now, he's definitely getting up there in age, 29 years old, I believe now. And there's talk, you know, that maybe the Titans are going to try to throw the ball a little more, try to get some of the pressure off of Derrick Henry in the running game. And the offensive line is notably not that great. But Derrick Henry has been consistently scoring touchdowns, getting tons of yards every single year for the last 5 years. And until he stops doing it, I'm not ready to say, oh, Derrick Henry's dead. I like Derrick Henry this year. I think he's still going to be a big contributor. And for a year rental, even if it's just a year, I like Derrick Henry, you know, with the 109 maybe being the pick I'm trading away. I like Derrick Henry more than the options of, you know, Devon Achane or Zach Charbonnet or Kendre Miller or Roshan Johnson that are all there, who could become good pros but aren't winning me anything this year. And if I'm starting with Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Javonte Williams as my 3 running backs on this on my squad, I got a really good running back room there, and I have a really good chance to make some noise this season. So that's the name right off the top that kind of really stands out to me, because I think you can't. It's one of these rare years where you can get a guy who is, I wouldn't say likely, but has all the tools to be a top 5 running back again. And you can get him for basically a late first round pick. And that doesn't happen every single year. So that's the guy that I kind of have circled in any of my leagues where I'm a contender and I'm trying to win. So that would be the first name I'd be going after.
And you also have to mention that in the fantasy playoffs, Derrick Henry plays the Texans or the Jaguars. He plays twice.
I believe it's the Texans that he plays twice. And I had looked this up because I've been collecting Derrick Henry in as many leagues as I can because of that fact. I believe it's week 15 and week 17 that Derrick Henry will be playing the Texans this year, which would be if in most leagues it would be your wild card round and your championship round. And in his career, he has 225 carries for 1,380 yards and 12 touchdowns in 12 games against the Texans. So he's over 100 yards and a touchdown on average.
Not even a full season.
Not even a full season.
Put them all together. Not even a full season.
Exactly. So he just tears the Texans apart. So definitely worth noting.
Definitely. So that leaves us with 112, which, and now, like I said, you know, talk to your league mates. If Derrick Henry can cost you only 112, that's...
Do it.
Hey, even better. Maybe start with 112, and then if you have to give up 109, go to 109. But another name I wanted to mention was Miles Sanders, the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers this year. Somebody that's been depressed and devalued in the dynasty community. A lot of times when a running back goes to his second team and he doesn't get a contract with his first team again, they become kind of like damaged goods. But if you look at the situation he's landing in Carolina, we have an ascending offensive line with a lot of great young pieces. We have the number 1 overall quarterback from this year's draft, and you have a head coach with a Super Bowl pedigree who knows how to put together a much more competent offense than Matt Rule did last year in Carolina. So I think Miles Sanders is a perfect contending type of target. And the nice thing is, because Tim mentioned that Derrick Henry, there's a very good chance that he can just drop off the cliff after this year's over. Miles Sanders, I think it was a 3-year or a 4-year deal, but realistically it's a 2-year deal in Carolina.
Right.
So you will have the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers for the next 2 seasons. So, even if Bryce struggles a little bit this year, and let's say Miles Sanders finishes it as RB 16 or 18, one, that's improving your roster.
Right.
But two, if Bryce takes a step forward in his second year, now you might be looking at the one random season where Miles Sanders finishes as a top 12 option. So I think taking that 112 and moving that for a player like Miles Sanders would be a great move. And because like Tim said, we're just trying to add to that running back room, and that's the final piece. The wide receiver room is great. Dallas Goedert is a very strong tight end with Pat Freiermuth as a backup. And like we said, the quarterback room is very strong considering that it's only a one quarterback league.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, I think if you're looking at kind of the two ideas of trades plus the Gibbs pick that we're talking here, we're kind of we're remanaging the entire running back room, both for this year, but also for a couple years, like you said. You have Javonte Williams likely getting healthier as we get through the year, kind of being a future back for you, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a rookie. But then you have Sanders, who, yes, can be kind of that bridge in there for a year or two more while you bring in other rookies that might develop in the running back room. Because like we said when we looked over the roster, Lawrence is going to be good for a while. Your receivers are going to be good for a while. So you want to make sure that you have those running backs, for a few years. The Henry pick, trading for Derrick Henry is we can win now with this guy, but we're not sacrificing our future in doing so necessarily, because the guy you're going to be getting at either the 109 or 112 that you're going to be trading has the potential to become a really good, flex back for you as we move on, but likely isn't probably going to be a guy that's going to be the game-changing, top 15 running back for you every single year. So go try to win the championship while also grabbing enough depth in that room that you're going to be good no matter what the bye week or injury situation is. And if you're taking these 3 picks and morphing your room from essentially just Javonte Williams into Williams, Gibbs, Henry, Miles Sanders, your team is a top contender for sure. And I imagine adding that kind of value onto this team would probably, even in the contender rankings on the Dynasty GM, probably have you at the number 1 spot or right there at number 1.
Yep. And so that leaves us with the 2 later picks to deal with, pick 21 and pick 30 overall. But I think this brings up a good topic for us to touch on right now, which is training camp hype and rookie ADP risers and fallers. We are recording this on July 31st. I actually just got back from New York Giants training camp this morning. Daniel Bellinger is huge. Darren Waller is eating up all the targets. And we might actually get that Paris Campbell breakout that we've been waiting for.
Oh, man. 4 years in the making.
It feels like the better part of a half decade now. Yeah. But so rookie draft season is what would you say, like late May, Tim? That's like the height of rookie draft season. So
typically somewhere in May, yeah.
Yeah, so we're about 2 months post rookie draft season, and we're about to start a rookie draft. Right. So who have been the risers, who have been the fallers, and what training camp news the past 2 weeks has really affected that ADP? One player I want to talk about to start off with, this is actually recent news as of the past 24 hours, but unfortunately, Denver Broncos wide receiver Tim Patrick tore his Achilles and will miss the entire 2023 season. Yeah. Now, what does this mean? Marvin Mims is a player that Tim and I both loved during the pre-draft process. Denver went out of their way to spend the first of their very few draft picks bringing him in. But even on the night of the draft stream, Tim and I both said, we love Marvin Mims in Denver, but I guess this is a 2024 play when they move on from a Judy, from a Sutton, from a Tim Patrick. And it's looking like Marvin Mims might get a shot in 2023 to show the world what he has. And then obviously there's other players that are, lighting up the world with highlight videos. You have Rashee Rice in Kansas City. Every highlight I feel coming out of Kansas City right now is a Patrick Mahomes to Rashee Rice connection. So I'm sure he would be flying up draft boards. I actually have a rookie draft going on myself, and I got him at the 202, which I was completely ecstatic about. So there's a lot of players that are moving up and down draft boards with training camp news. Tim, who are some of you guys you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, as far as risers and fallers, I think one of the biggest fallers that we're going to see affected in these rookie drafts that are still going on is Zach Charbonnet, who has a shoulder injury and is out indefinitely. We don't know what the length of time that's going to be with Seattle, but I mean, this was already a crowded backfield having Kenny Walker already there, but now, with Kenny Walker also nursing an injury and Charbonnet out indefinitely, you'd think there might be some help coming into Seattle. And if they do that, then there's even more competition in that room. So I would expect him to slide a little bit down. Kendre Miller was up pretty high on a lot of boards for a long time. But with the news that Alvin Kamara had settled and is likely not going to have that long of a suspension, most likely 2 to 4 games is kind of the thought that would happen. And on top of, Kamara, Jamal Williams is also there, and Miller's dealing with his own injuries as well. So he's probably sliding down boards a little bit. One name I keep reading about, though, that's going up boards that in camp, at least camp hype, is Tank Bigsby. I've been hearing a lot of talk of him looking really good in Jaguars camp, and will they try to move ETN into the slot and have Bigsby more of the standard back that you have, or will they come out of 22 personnel and have them both in there? Like what exactly are we going to see, right? But that's another name that I think is moving up boards a little bit. So that fluctuation is going to change day by day, though, because yesterday if you would have told me, hey, Marvin Mims, that's probably the right guy to buy in right now, well, Tim Patrick still had a healthy Achilles at that point. So as every single day moves on, and as we get closer for our LambRoast team that's on here, as every day gets closer to Saturday, there's going to be other hype and injuries and news. So make sure you're keeping up to date with all of that, whether it's Twitter or whatever you follow, or X, I guess, whatever you follow, to make sure that you're keeping up with that hype, because sometimes even with these picks, the 207 or the 302 that are in this draft, sometimes just grab the guy that's getting the hype, because then you can flip him for other value later on.
Yep. And you got to remember, Thursday night Hall of Fame game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson will throw 4 touchdowns and shoot up rookie boards.
Right, exactly. And Zach Wilson will be the new starter for the Jets, right?
Yes. So, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Another edition of the Dynasty Team Audit Series. And remember, if you would like your Dynasty team to be featured in this series, just become a member of the Nerd Herd. Join our Discord, fill out the survey questionnaire, and you may be selected to appear on one of our future YouTube videos. If you're not a Nerd Herd member, I got good news for you. You can sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Right over there, promo code NERDS. They will match your deposit up to $100 with an instant bonus, and you could use that $200, enter Best Ball Mania. You could enter the puppies as they pop up. You could potentially win millions of dollars in addition to your Nerd Herd membership. So, Dan and Tim signing out. Thanks again for checking us out, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys have a good one.